Today, I'm sitting with former NFL linebacker Kevin Malast. Kevin signed with the Chicago Bears in 2009 as an undrafted free agent, and he later played for the Tennessee Titans and the Jacksonville Jaguars before retiring in 2013. And he also played at Rutgers University and went to high school at Manchester High School in New Jersey. Kevin, welcome to the show, man.
What's up, Jay? So happy to be here, man. Excited to have a conversation with you.
Absolutely, bro. As you know, I bring docents on this show to talk about their docents. Docents are people that inspire or influence or guide other people through their actions. And you, my friend, you are a docent. So I brought you on the show today to learn about who your docents were growing up. So I know you grew up in Manchester. I knew your brother. I played in the all-shore football game with your brother. Why don't you tell me who your docents were growing up?
Yeah, no doubt, man. I love it. This is a great starting point. I would say, my intermediate family off the bat. My two older brothers. You mentioned Bill. I have another older brother named Brian, and my two parents. Who are just amazing people and really set the tone for me in my life. My job now, I'm sure we'll
Yeah.
get into, is based on relationships. And how I value relationship is basically how I was treated amongst my family. So everything I learned through my brothers and especially my parents and the day-to-day details of just being there for people and great and tough times. I try to apply that to what I do now in every part of my life. So super blessed for my intermediate family and who they are, and of course my wife. My wife is an amazing individual, and I've known her since high school.
It's awesome.
So she's been there with me through every part of the path, and she's a Manchester girl as well. So I'd have to credit my wife and my family is my immediate docents. But I'm very blessed to be around a lot of amazing people who inspire me to be the person that I am. Whether it's athletes I deal with or people I looked up to when I was younger, coaches, and people I work with. So definitely a lot of blessings in that regard.
Your brother, I played against your brother all growing up, man, since we were little kids, like 8 years old. I mean, we didn't know who each other were when we were kids, but by high school, we were like good players. So I knew who Bill was. I'm sure he knew who I was, when we played against each other as kids, as high school kids. I didn't really know your brother though, but your brother had an accident, right? He got injured or something. And he was a state trooper, right? Like your father?
Brian's story is a tremendous story, and it gives me my greatest teaching tool in general, which is perspective. My brother Brian went to VMI, Virginia Military Institute, was a running back there on a full scholarship, had a tremendous career at Manchester, still holds a lot of the rushing records there at Manchester, and really just set the tone for me in general, just watching him play every day. That's really, watching both my brothers, the way, the passion they played with and the toughness, that really instilled in me the expectations that I had to play with. And the bar was clearly set there in my family. But when it comes to Brian, he was given a tremendous opportunity at VMI, had a great career there, graduated there, and then entered the state police. My father's a retired lieutenant colonel in the state police over 30 plus years. So we followed in my dad's footsteps. Unfortunately, my freshman year at Rutgers, so I just actually started playing there. My brother, 2 days after my red shirt got pulled and I played in my first collegiate game, he got into a really bad car accident on the job, got ejected from the car, about 6 weeks, was in a coma. That since then became a quadriplegic, paralyzed from the neck down. However, just his attitude is just it's super inspiring. It's never weighed him down. In fact, actually, since the accident, he's got his master's, still lives life to the fullest with a tremendous attitude. So I just watching him go about day to day life, it just instills in me a little bit of perspective as far as, I mean, shit, if I missed a tackle or if I had a rough day, you look at people like that and what they go
For
through,
sure.
and suddenly the problems that you have aren't as
Yep.
tough, and it allows you just to get through 'em. So Brian's a tremendous leader in my life, and he is for a lot of people. A lot of times people go to his house to uplift him and what he's got going on, but people leave in a reverse way.
Yeah.
Suddenly Brian's made an impact on you, and we're in areas that you got to be better. And he's got a lot of great, amazing friends in the state police or VMI or from Manchester that still support him to this day. So he's still a success story, and now I walk away with a little bit of perspective from his story.
That's amazing. So he's definitely a docent for you, I guess.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what's crazy about Brian too is like I mentioned earlier, is I never. It's not like I started looking up to him when he got in the accident. As an individual, I like to say I was very perceptive. I took in at all times what was going on around me. Things like my father, my mom, Brian, and Bill, and just everything that they did in the day to day and the way they lived their details of their life. Because
Yeah.
to me that's clearly how big results happen. It's the minute details and how you treat certain things. It reflects other areas of your life, and I'm blessed that I got to learn that at a young age based on watching all these individuals. Because now I apply that literally to what I do now, and I attribute that to any success I've ever had.
When you were a kid, first of all, who was the oldest? Bill was the oldest, and then it was Brian, then you?
So Billy was the oldest, yep, and Brian
Okay.
was the yep.
Okay. When you were growing up, what was driving you, like your inner drive? Was you just playing sports and trying to be the best you could? Did you ever aspire to be in the NFL? I mean, we all dreamed about it, but like, did you actually think that that was a reality? And when did that happen? Like, when did you realize this might actually happen?
So I've always had a knack of competition. Even at a very young age, I was probably too much, to be honest, when I was little. Like I was that guy when my parents would go to parent teacher conferences, and in like elementary school, the gym teacher would say, love Kev's effort, but maybe he's a little too competitive. 'Cause I was the guy like playing football in the playground, and I was always like the quarterback, the athlete on the field, like throwing the ball. And if you drop the pass, well, I kind of got in your ass a little bit because I just wanted to win, and it didn't matter what I was doing. I could be playing tennis, whatever I was doing in whatever sport. I just wanted to come up with, you know, the trained behavior and instinct to want to win in anything I'm doing. And I developed that at a very young age. And I think just the culture of being in my family developed that young. I've always loved the game of football as soon as I knew what it was.
Yeah.
And I've always dreamed of playing the NFL. Like playing like sixth grade, as soon as I could, understand that you can make it to that far, that's what I wanted to do. And my dad made it clear to me, like, listen, we can do this, but you're gonna have to pay the price day in and day out, more so than anybody you've ever imagined or anybody that you're gonna be around. And especially, coming from Manchester. And that's not to knock Manchester from an athletic standpoint, but there's just,
Well, not many. Nobody's ever gone to the NFL from that school, right? Were you the first?
exactly. No, yeah, I'm the first and only. So to do things that no one's ever done, you got to do things that no one's ever done. So and there's a commitment level there. So I definitely, let's just say, where a lot of kids were doing a lot of different things in high school. I was spending at home and like in the weight room and doing things to better myself as an athlete, to make sure I took the proper steps to get to that level. And I always just say, what I did in elementary school set me up for middle school. Same thing, middle school set me up for high school. It just
Give
gives
me an
you
example. Why don't you back it up? So give me a little example, because like when I was a kid, I wasn't that dedicated. Like I worked out a lot when I was in high school, but like in middle school, I don't know, man. I wasn't like that. I mean, there's a difference, right? You made it to the NFL. So tell us what you did to accomplish those goals. Like, what did you have to? Your dad was focused. Was he training with you and stuff? Like, how did you get
for
there?
sure, for sure.
Okay.
So it's funny. It's like a tradition. You hit the weight room at a certain age. And growing up, I watched my two older brothers like do that, and I followed them. I was always hanging around them in the weight room and following them around, and I drove them nuts. They'd be like, "Yo, can you leave me alone?" This and that. But I liked being around them because I just liked what they were doing. I liked the competitiveness, and I grew up watching really my old man like just work his ass off. That's where I really pull from a lot of my spirit.
I heard about your dad in Bayville, where I grew up. I heard about because we knew about Bill, your brother Bill, and we heard, oh, his dad's a beast, man. I've never saw your dad, but I heard he was like this big dude or something. I don't know. How big is your dad?
I mean, he's an animal.
Yeah.
My dad used to be an instructor in the academy back in the '80s, and as
Yeah.
you can imagine, training there was a little different. And I remember him like even as a side job, he'd cut a bunch of lawns. My dad's the type of guy cut 30 lawns on the weekend, and in between lawn cut, it's like he'd go run the bleachers at Monsignor Donovan
God
with his
damn.
arms out. He
I
was
love
there,
it. I love it.
and he was a black belt. He had a karate school as
Oh,
well
that's
as a
awesome.
black belt in karate. So like he again, just watching him and the
That's
things
pretty
he
cool, bro. I know it's really cool. The fact that his legacy, whatever you call it, was like spreading around the community, like different towns. Kids are playing against his kids, and we're like, yo, man, that dude's gonna be good. His dad's a beast. It's like,
absolutely.
that's pretty cool.
That's what's really cool, Jay, and that's a great point too, because that's the impact my dad made on me too, and I hope to make on my son. Is that my dad was always my coach growing up, and that's not so much that he always wanted to make sure, but he always just wanted to make sure I was in good hands and I was learning the game the appropriate way and learning to play it the appropriate way. I was a big wrestler. I'm a huge wrestling fan to this day.
Yeah.
In fact, it's part of my business now. But my dad didn't wrestle as much growing up, but just wanted to make sure I was always surrounded by the right people and I took the proper approach and work ethic to be a successful wrestler. And it was the same way in baseball. So I plan to be around my son just as much as my dad was around me because that was a tremendous impact that he made on me. Not so much just the X's and O's and the details of playing the game, but just a way to approach the game and just hard work and effort and where that can bring you.
I was telling you before we jumped on, a buddy of mine told me about this book, Relentless, by Tim Grover, Michael Jordan's trainer, right? He talks about there's three types of people, okay? There's coolers, there's closers, and there's cleaners. Coolers are very careful. They wait to be told what to do. Mediator, not a decision maker, doesn't take sides unless forced to. If you play a lot of sports, play sports growing up, there's a lot of these kids on the team. Like the coach says, you got to go over there and do it, but they don't really take initiative, but they're there. They're filling a seat on the field. You got, you got these guys in the field, 11 guys. It's like not everybody's going to be a stud, right? You got the closers. They can handle the pressure. They're the guy that you can count on when you're down. It's like get in there and you can close it out, right? They're aware what other people think about them. They have self-awareness. They love the rewards, the perks associated with the fame. They're thinking about like how they're going to win and how the girls are going to think of them, right? This is the closer. This is the superstar kid in high school kind of thing. But then there's the rare occurrence. This is the cleaner. I think it's synonymous with what I call docents, right? These are the docents, right? The cleaners, and that's why my buddy told me about the book. He's like, bro, your podcast, like, it's really cleaners. You're calling them docents, but they're cleaners. I'm like, all right. These people, they have amazing careers in all walks of life, whether it's business. In the book, I'm reading the book, they talk about like a bus driver. Like he owns his bus. You've had these bus drivers, right? They know everybody's name when they come on in the morning. Hey, how you doing, Kevin? Hey, little Joey, right? But if you step out, they stop that bus and go, I will stop this bus. This is my bus, right? That's a cleaner, right? But in sports, Michael Jordan was a cleaner, right? The guy wrote the book, right? So he was his trainer. They're not told rather what to do. They don't ask what to do. They just know what to do. Like they're pushing so hard on their own, and they're pushing themselves beyond what they're being asked to do from their coaches, right? They're the ones that tell everybody, we're coming in on Saturday, guys, right? They're the leaders, right? They take responsibility for everybody else and for everything. They're the Michael Jordans. They're the ones that take the last shot. Give me that fucking ball, right? Like that's the cleaner, right? You know who you are when you're a cleaner, right? They make the decisions. They don't make suggestions, right? They're not looking for a consensus view on the team. This is what we're doing. Come on, let's get, you know what I mean? Like that's the cleaner, right? And they want to win at all costs. In business, these are the people like Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs, Warren Buffett, Elon Musk, right? They're fucking cleaners. Like, why does he have to go to work every day when he's worth $100 billion, right? Like, it's insane. Like, Elon Musk, right? Like, he's got 5 companies. Like, is enough enough? It's like, what does enough mean? I don't know what you're talking about. It doesn't even compute. Like, if you even ask the question, you're not a cleaner. Like, when they look at people like you or me that have been successful and then they're still pushing and pushing, people will be like, why don't you just rest on your laurels and just chill with your family? And you're not a cleaner. You don't get it. You're not a docent, right? And that's what it is. So like, does that resonate with you? Like, when you hear those things, are you a closer or cleaner? Do I even dare ask?
Yeah. I mean, I would totally like to say I'm a cleaner. That's just my approach. And my thing is I try to battle complacency every day. Anything that makes you feel like you're getting comfortable in whatever you're doing. I always say, if I'm not being busy in whatever thing I'm doing, like there's no reason for me to even sit down and to watch a TV in the middle of the day. Like that makes no sense to me. I could be making a phone call to a client. I could be reaching out to a prospect. I can be building a bridge to someone in my network. I could be doing something positive for someone else, which enhances my relationship, or, even more so, spending time with family, doing something better to improve my son or my daughter who's about to be 1 now. There's just always something to do and stay active. If I ever find myself, being, silent or whatever, it freaks me out. I always got to, even if it's cleaning the house, like, I don't know, I'll start cleaning the fucking, countertops. It doesn't matter to me, because to me, like, I just battle complacency and I always try to be proactive in anything I'm doing.
When you were a kid, who did you look up to? There had to be like athletes and stuff. Like, who was your favorite athlete when you were a kid?
God, well, I have to say, I start with my parents. Yeah, like I definitely looked up to my parents and everything they did, and they're still my heroes to this day. But besides that, God, I would say, you know what? No was a great athlete that I always just like to follow. I read his biography with Walter Payton,
Yeah.
and I just loved his
Sweetness.
attitude, sweetness. Like they would say, Walter Payton would never willfully, unless it was clock management or whatever, would never willfully run out of bounds.
Yeah.
And he would say, never die easy, and he
Sure.
would kind of put his foot in the ground and, and power through like that safety trying to come up to him. Maybe he thought they were going to push him out of bounds, but he always stopped and put his shoulder into someone and run him over. And to me, like, I always appreciate that, like just punishing the defense and just to keep rolling and to wear people down, and that always resonated with me, and he wore 34 too, which is kind of cool. And I wore
Yeah.
34 in high school and college. And he was a reason why I did it, but more importantly, a big reason why I wore 34 is my brother Brian wore 34 in high school as well. So I got to emulate him. I would say Walter Payton was probably that athlete that I was like, holy shit, man, this guy, just the way he lived his day to day. Hear people talk about him and his legacy and what he did, and also the type of person he was off the field, which is really impressive too, as far as giving back and caring for others and the conversations you have with anybody, no matter who you were and what status you were. To me, that reflects a lot. And just he's a great athlete that I would want my son to look up to one day too.
What did you get in high school? You all state? You were first team all state?
I'm a unique breed in that regard. I'm a big believer in three sports, so I'm a three-sport guy in high school. And luckily, my senior year, I was all state in all three sports that I
Wow.
competed in. Yeah, so,
That's
football
fucking
was always
awesome, dude.
football was always my primary, but the other sports that I played in, baseball and wrestling, were all great skill sets to develop, and that would help me in all three of those sports. And I believed in playing the season and also training through the season. No matter what sport I was lifting weights hard throughout any sport. It didn't matter, especially wrestling. You look at wrestling where sometimes it's my senior year or it's my junior year. So say if like the match didn't go long. Luckily, say if I got a pin or I tech followed someone or something like that. Well, I mean, that's only
What
I
was your
only
what was your record senior year? What was your record of wrestling?
Oh God, career wise, I had 119 wins in high school.
Wow,
I was a
that's good.
three-time district champ, three-time region champ, a three-time region place winner. I took fifth my senior year. I lost in the state semifinals.
Okay.
I only had two losses my senior year.
Two
And I
losses
can't.
your senior year? You were undefeated going to the States?
Oh yeah, yeah. I was
Oh,
undefeated actually going to the state
what
semifinals, and
happened to the States? Oh shit, man.
yeah, I lost
Oh,
this actually. His name's Dave Zabriskie, and he ended up being a national champion at Iowa State. So he was
oh,
going
what
to
are the
the rest.
chances?
I was already going.
I tell people all the time when I had Frankie on, I said it too, but I tell people all the time in my everyday walk of life that New Jersey wrestling is one of the best scholastic high school wrestling in the entire country. There's no question. It's like Pennsylvania is pretty good too, right? But I mean, no, New Jersey's top notch, bro. Especially Jersey Shore. Especially Jersey Shore.
It's tremendous, and I like to, I brag about Jersey wrestling in general, and I'm old Region Six too. Before the regions got turned around and things like that, so that Region Six wrestling, which is Jersey Shore, just incredible. Especially the times when I was there. I mean, it was the amount of talent that was in there wrestling, and guys who went on to do really big things. Just a really cool experience to wrestle in the Jersey Shore, especially given my high school years.
I said it before. Every kid who's playing football growing up thinks, I want to go to the NFL, right? Or I should say, they wish they could go to the NFL. I wish I'd be in the NFL someday. And I always say there's a difference between wishing and wanting something. If you wish for something, you're hopeful. You're being hopeful, like, I hope it happens. When you want it, you have to prepare, like your father said, right? And you got to put the work in. So at what point, were you in high school at some point where you're like, I think this might be real? Because as a little kid, we all wish for it, right? But like, at what point were you like, I'm putting it in and I think I have a shot? And what made you believe that?
You know what? I didn't realize there was a real chance of me playing. Like I've always tried to will it to happen, and I was always hopeful. So I always did everything I could to just better position me for the following play for the following year and whatever that was. I wasn't a full time starter at Rutgers until my junior year at Rutgers. It was a very stacked team. It was a great time to go there. Between '05 to '08 is when I played there. A lot of fun years. We beat two top five teams in the country. I played with three first round draft picks, and there are only three first round draft picks Rutgers ever had.
Wow.
So again, really fun time. Coach Shiano years, and it was just a
Yeah, yeah.
blast. Four bowl games, won three.
I went up there to watch you play a couple times, actually.
Awesome. Yeah, yeah. Again, some amazing just memories there. But I didn't realize it was like a reality until maybe after my junior year, where I had a really productive year my junior year, and I was making some plays and felt like athletically I could definitely do this and I can compete at a high level. The Big East Conference was a great conference at that time. Yeah, that's probably when I really realized it. But to be honest, Jay, I definitely worked towards it
Yeah,
since that beginning dream of being a first grader. To be honest, I took it that
right.
serious. I committed myself in a way that I knew I had to give myself a chance. I was always gifted athletically to a certain extent, but I knew that would only that could hit you right in the face at the most random time if you don't prepare yourself a proper way. So I always trained through that, through any of that athletic ability I had. I never looked to my right and left. Always tried to make myself the best I can possibly be. So that was just a piece of mind I tried to develop. So now when I get to these points of competition and putting myself in a great spot to maybe play in the NFL one day, well, now I'm prepared to work accordingly.
In the book Relentless, they talk about getting in the zone, right? You get into the zone, you shut everything else out and control the uncontrollable, right? So, like, describe that from a perspective of a guy who's been in the NFL. You're banging heads with the best players in the entire fucking planet, and they're moving at speeds and velocity and weight and strength like you've never seen before. Everybody's an all-state, all-American. I mean, it's incredible. So, can you describe getting into the zone when you're in the NFL? How do you prepare yourself mentally when you get out there?
Absolutely. For me, to be quite honest, I was always like the bottom of the half roster type of guy. The guy that had to earn my way every single day. It was guaranteed during my 4 year career there that I was going to be there for the next couple of months, whatever that looked like. I didn't have a day guaranteed to me. So every day I had to wake up thinking that way with that kind of sense of urgency. So I literally took everything extremely serious. It didn't matter what it was. It could have been sitting in a meeting room. I took the intensity sitting in that meeting room as I would in a practice field and going through a middle drill or whatever that was, or especially in the room. So every day I treated like you think about the Super Bowl and the build up around like the Super Bowl and how like, just wild that game is and all the effort and energy put into one game, even not just so much the players but the coaching staff. Well, that approach and that idea of that I had to take. So every day was my personal Super Bowl. Like that's how I treated it. Like, and it could be taken away from me any given moment. I like to say I was in the zone. Like there's a lot of people in my life that made a lot of sacrifices around me because I had a commitment that I knew I had to do. So
Yep.
whether it was friends like trying to put together plans for like a dinner or whatever, but like, I'm simply just not doing that. Like or I'm not going on
Going
vacation.
out to the bar or something on the summer. It's like not happening,
Exactly.
right?
And I never did that, and I never took vacations when I played either because like it drove me nuts. The anxiety of like maybe there's someone out there outworking me, or I'm not doing everything I need to do. I got a unique opportunity to make an impact in the NFL. I mean, it's a tremendous opportunity and a complete blessing.
Yeah, 100%. So in the book, they talk about 13 rules to becoming relentless. I want to read some of these to you. I want to just get your reaction. So because you're relentless, bro. The shit you're telling me is getting me all fired up. So listen to these. Number one, and by the way, they're all listed number one because they're all important. He says that it's not 1, 2, 3, right? It's funny. So number one, you keep pushing yourself harder when everyone else has had enough. Obviously, you did that, right? You get into the zone, you shut everything else out. Like I said, you control the uncontrollable. You know exactly who you are. Nobody needs to tell you. You know, right? You don't need a pat on the back, right? You have a dark side that refuses to be taught to be good, right? And that's a part about football players too that a lot of people don't understand. It's a violent sport, right? There's a dark side to us here, right? You're not intimidated by the pressures. You thrive on the pressure, right? Does this resonate with you, right? You hear this shit? You want to strap on a fucking helmet right now. Right? When everyone else is hitting
It's cool.
exactly. When everyone else is hitting the in case of an emergency button, they're all looking to you though, right? Like we need his help, right? You don't compete with anyone and you find your opponent's weakness and then you attack that weakness, right? And this goes for people in business, for companies. Like, look at it, they have a weakness here. Oh, they have a feature. We can go after that, right? I dealt with this in the tech space. You make decisions, not suggestions. You know the answer while everyone else is still asking the question. You don't love the work, but you're addicted to the results. You're always incrementally trying to get better. He says in this book, right? Like Michael Jordan. It was like it was never about, oh, I love going to practice. It was about, I want to just, you know what? This is another thing he said. Michael Jordan, and this is funny, you go back and watch it on YouTube, he wins the first championship and he does this. I'm going for number 2, right? He wins the second championship and he's doing this to the crowd.
Yeah.
The 5th championship, he's doing this to the crowd, right? That's interesting to me, bro. It's like, oh, wow. It's like this guy was always thinking ahead. Same thing with Tom Brady, right? He just won his 7th Super Bowl, then the 10th Super Bowl, and he's like, so when are we going back to practice? It's like, what the fuck? Bro, you're like 95 years old. Are you going to retire? And he's like, I don't understand the question.
It's incredible. It just becomes instinct, like you train your behavior a certain way, and that's what you start. That's all you start thinking and imagining, and it's where you will it to happen.
Yeah, I won't go through all of them. There's a few more, but I think you kind of get the idea. It's like a mindset. There's success is a mindset, right? It's not luck. People say it's luck. There's some luck in life, I think, right? You have to get in the right place, right time. You had a great father. That's a lucky aspect right there. So he's a great inspiration to you and a great leader. And so there's certain things that are luck, but you got to put it in. Like you can't just be purely lucky unless you win the lottery, right? But like outside of that, there's no pure luck in this, right? Let me ask you about so at Manchester, we used to, by the way, your team was never good either. Like no offense, right? But I don't understand what it was about Manchester back in the 90s, but like the Malasts were good. I remember hearing you guys, but that was it. It was like no, you had Joey Mickens too. I remember him. He was good. But outside of that, I don't remember anybody being good, How do you deal with that when you're on a team that's a losing team and you're a great competitive athlete?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say I definitely had my own frustrations playing at Manchester at times, just because I had a commitment level that was very different than a lot of my friends and what I was doing in the time that I was spending in the weight room. So I wanted people to match my intensity and my approach, and to make sure that we were putting ourselves in the best position to win games. Because to me, it meant a lot, and especially when you're early in high school. Well, it helps you get noticed from a recruiting standpoint too if your
Mhm.
team's better.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
it,
Yeah.
it's always a little bit easier getting recruited if your team's just killing it. So for me personally, Manchester was an interesting experience because as we continued to grow throughout my career, and I played as a freshman on varsity as a freshman my freshman year, and we struggled, but it was cool to play early. But by the time I was a senior, we actually made it to the first time ever Manchester made the playoffs in school history. And the school's been open since the 1970s, and it was the first. And honestly, Jay, I think they've only been back one other time. So my senior year, it was kind of rewarding to make it into the playoffs. Now we lost the first round, I think, Point Borough,
Yeah.
but it was
How do you
cool.
lose to Point Borough?
They had a really good team. They actually made the finals that year, lost to
Did
West
they
Deptford.
really? Oh, wow.
Yeah, they had a great
They
triple
were never
option.
very good when I played in high school, but things change every 3 or 4 years, you know?
No doubt, no doubt. And they had a solid team that year, but it was cool to experience that at a school that's never done it before. And I took a lot of pride in that, that we made it to the playoffs first time in school history. And if I could, leave our mark, especially as a senior class, that was really fun to do. But playing in Manchester, we definitely had its challenges. You got a little
It's
frustrated.
like a cultural thing, right? Like, if it's happening decade after decade, year after year, it's culture, and it starts
Yeah,
with the coach probably, and I'm not blaming the guy that you had as a coach. I'm just saying generally it's gotta be leadership of some sort. Wonder why that happens, because 'cause I've seen this with a lot St. Joe's, Monsignor Donovan, they were
yeah,
never very good either, and it was Coach Duddy went there, that was my coach, he ended up being a coach there, and then he
yeah,
kinda turned the program around a little bit, and it got a little better, but, like, for the most
yeah.
part, yeah, it seems like it's like an inherited defeatist mindset or something. I'm not really sure what's going on with these teams.
Yeah, and that's something that's so special about what tradition can do, and how that gets set the tone and pace of any individual school. You know what I mean? And just expectation. Think about as a micronism, the expectations I had within my own family. Now, imagine if that expands within, a school or a company, or whatever that might be. Well, now you're setting the tone, you're setting the bar to get better and better, and to match intensity and to become better. That's what you always want a team to begin resonating. That's something special I thought we really began doing at Rutgers when we started going there and playing some good football. But the biggest thing about Manchester, or just in high school in general, you have a variety of people as far as just how all in they are or not. Some were doing in high school,
Yeah.
people do
Yeah,
it
totally.
recreation just to say they do it. But when you get to college is really fun for me and eye opening because when I went to college, well, I saw a bunch of guys that were just like me, that were very fired up to be there and just passionate and want to become great football players. That's what, like, I got jacked up as soon as I went to
That's
Rutgers.
that's gotta be great. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because everybody believes, right? It's like that's the other thing, like, when I at Central, right, we had really good players. We had, like, Matt Barroney, Ryan Howell, Paris Playing. There was a really good team, like, a lot of great players that I played with, but there were some of the players that were good, I'm about to tell you this. So, going into my senior year, like, I was like, "We're winning states," right? There's no question we're going to states, we're gonna win the whole thing, right? State championship. That was the goal. And I'll never forget, I wanna say a name because 'cause I'm not trying to call anybody out, but one of the guys on the team was a good player. He's like, "I mean, let's be realistic." I'm like, "What?" Like, what is that? Like, and he's like, "I mean, just like, realistically." And I'm like, "Oh shit." Like, maybe I'm just overly confident. I don't even know what the fuck that is. But like, to have one of the best players on the team being a quote unquote realist, it wasn't even like I was trying to say something I didn't believe. I really always believe whatever the fuck I'm doing, I could be the best at it. And then if you got 11 guys on a team and you're the crew, right? You're the starters. You can't have one guy that feels that way. When you're at Manchester, I guess that a lot of them felt like, well, we're not going to win a lot of games. I mean, yeah, not with that attitude, right? Like, is that something you had to deal with, I guess?
Totally, yeah. You
Yeah.
get like a little bit of an attitude of, people just settle a little bit, but sometimes you don't know what you don't know. A lot of times, like if they're not exposed to certain things, and that's one thing I'm very lucky that I was exposed just how to compete every day and how to win, how to win. I spent a lot of times in my parents' garage, which ironically I'm back to lifting in now. My dad built this amazing gym where me and my brothers just grew up lifting weights, and it's funny to be lifting on a bench press that I grew up lifting on. I live in Mount River now, but Whiting's like 25 minutes away, and I still
You
go
got to
there and
come over
train.
here sometime, work out my gym.
I would love to get after it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the session. I still lift. I still lift like I play. And I
Yeah.
enjoy lifting weights.
You're a
It's
fucking
very
animal.
it's great. But that weight room and I did a lot of that lifting on my own at my parents' garage, with my dad, my brothers, or anybody who would come join me with a lift out there. Every so often I would lift at the school and just to show people the pace that I was running at and to show them the lifts that I was doing, maybe to inspire others. But again, I'm lucky to have that perspective at home. And that just made me the best player I could possibly be. And I'm lucky that positioned me to, get the opportunities that I got, especially at Rutgers.
Kevin, what were your grades like when you were in high school? Academically, how did you do?
So it's funny, everyone knows my dad, who's like a disciplinarian, again, retired lieutenant colonel, still works at the Ocean County Prosecutor's Office. And people know him in a lot of different ways. He's a tough coach. And he's a very, he can be a very feared guy. My mom's actually the bigger badass, I mean, my mom takes no shit, and she's awesome. Yeah, she's great. And she's really set the bar too as a parent, and as far as just being there for their kids. And my mom, academically, really took the reins on that and to make sure that I was developing as a student appropriately. And she was awesome. She was awesome. So through that and understanding the importance of school and what that can do for me in the future, and it doesn't matter how great of a football player you're in. Well, if you can't get into college, well, shit, you don't get that opportunity to play. So I understood that at a young age, and plus, I took pride in that. Just like you compete on the field, like I compete in the classroom too. Like I want to be the best in math class. I don't give a shit what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So like I took that
Yeah,
same
good
approach.
grades
And
there. Yeah.
like I took tough classes too. I was in a lot of honors classes in middle school and high school. I took AP French
Wow.
in high school. And these are classes I didn't even have to take. I was already, getting in the Rutgers, and I was already, past the clearinghouse and things like that. But I just like to compete, and I got, I was definitely a straight A student. Maybe every now and then I got like a B or a B plus, but and that would drive me
Was
nuts.
was Billy also a straight A student, your brother?
Uh, I'm not sure if Billy, I don't want to speak for Billy. I can't recall it. I'm
He was
with
more like me.
Billy was a smart kid, and
Yeah.
Brian always struggled academically too. But Brian was a fighter, and he just earned everything he had to get along the way. Things came a little easier than me, and you matched that with my work ethic, so I was definitely gifted and blessed in that regard.
Yeah.
But yeah, but setting the tone academically, that comes from my mom. My mom's extremely smart.
Yeah.
Has her master's plus additional credits on top of that, and just a really incredible lady. She's taught in middle school over 40 years at the same
Wow.
exact middle school. The same middle school, survived about 6 or 7 principals.
Oh my
Just
God.
super consistent day in and day out.
Right.
And again, it starts in the house, man. I'm a big believer in that. And I see my parents go to work every day, and it's crazy what the impact that can make on me as an individual. Because I think about that now.
Your mom's not retired? She's still going?
Nope, still going to school.
Wow. Your dad's done, right? He's retired?
Well, he's retired from the state police, but he works for the Ocean County Prosecutor's
I love
Office.
the work ethic. That's amazing.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I
no
see what
one's
you're
like
saying. Yeah.
family, and it's cool, especially with the grand. My parents love the kids, love Billy's kids and the grandkids. It's a lot of fun.
Does he live around here still, your brother?
Billy lives in Tom's River as well.
Oh, he
Yeah,
does. Okay. I didn't realize.
yeah,
Okay, cool. And so Manchester, they put you in the Hall of Fame? You got to be in the Hall of Fame, right?
yeah. Actually, yeah, me and both my brothers are in the Hall of Fame. All three
Oh,
of
cool.
us.
Okay. Did you
Yeah.
guys all get inducted at the same time or what?
I went a year before them, and the following year they both
Cool.
got in as well. Yeah, so
And you're also, I'm assuming you're also in the Rutgers Hall of Fame, right?
I'm not in the Rutgers Hall of Fame. I mean, the
What?
Rutgers is such a just. I mean, if you get like
Retiring a number is one thing, but like Hall of Fame, you should be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, that's
the
crazy.
athletes that come out of Rutgers are incredible.
Come
They're
on,
really
bro. How many guys are going to the NFL from that school? Not that many, right? How
well. To
many?
be honest, what's crazy is given the time that we went.
Yeah.
I mean, a ton of players. Like before we got there, you have like
I think
you're like,
anybody that makes a professional team should be in their college Hall of Fame. That's crazy. I'm not
well,
saying to retire the jersey or anything, but you know what I mean?
yeah.
Gotta
It's
pay
it's
homage.
tough. It's tough because like Rutgers, there's a lot of great athletes that come out of that university. And how about this? Like this as a stat, my recruiting class alone. So only these guys that who just entered as freshmen. There's about 8 or 9 of us that played in the NFL in just one recruiting class, Jay. So think about that. Like that's how, and that's just a testament to Coach Shiano and how we all developed underneath him and all of our
Yeah.
culture that was built around there, and everybody just level setting and getting better every day. And then there were some upperclassmen who had really great success in the NFL as well. But yeah, just in my recruiting class alone, we were stacked. It's incredible. There's twin brothers who in that recruiting class are still playing in the NFL to this day. So it's incredible.
Wow. Well, you've taken relationships that you had from Rutgers and you've taken relationships from the NFL, and then you took that into the business world. So why don't you tell us about where you're at now? You're at Malka Sports. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm the VP of talent for Malka Sports. So basically, I manage all of our talent relationships regarding our business on the brand side and try to create wins across the board for them and whoever we're dealing with. Kind of build a culture and community around Malka, and try to just create wins across the board. In a variety of different ways. We serve in contract branding, marketing, what we call legacy, which is a mix of philanthropy and entrepreneurship. So I try to find wins in all 4 of those areas for our guys. as far as also organically grow the business. What's really cool about that, and what I got going on there is the guy I work for, the president and CEO of Malka Sports, is a guy named Pat Capper, and Pat represented me as a player during my time in the NFL. So I get to witness firsthand, get a firsthand experience as far as how a player should be treated during their time, and especially during a transition, which is the toughest time of anybody's life to go through that. So Pat really, did an unbelievable job by me, and inspires me to serve our talent in that way as well.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. So you got to go with him, and then you got to see, basically, he kind of like groomed you as just being the athlete to see how you need to be treated, right?
Exactly, and that's what's really special about our relationship. And I didn't set out to, be an agent or work on the agency side. I really didn't happen organically, just through relationships I built and afforded me through Rutgers and through the NFL. It's the type of guy that I love the relationship side of it. And there's nothing better than sitting in a locker room and getting to know people that were just different from you and had different backgrounds. Get to know and gain life experience through that. I talked about perspective earlier. Same thing in a locker room, and just learn what people went through and what they did to get there. Like, that was inspiring to me, and I really appreciated all my relationships through Rutgers, in the NFL, and just anybody a part of my network in the Jersey Shore.
Yeah.
Like I knew who you were, Jay, like for a while, before we knew each other. Because
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of high school football and watching you guys play at Central.
Yeah.
Success that you had in business. There's a lot of different people in my life that set the bar for me that I get to watch, and just very grateful for that. So these relationships that I built along the way, it kind of just so happens it all came together, and my ability just to live on that relationship side and the details of those relationships allows me to be, pretty solid in what I do. And I think Pat recognized that in me, and how serious I take that. So it's a blessing to work for him every day, and to go to work for a guy that did so much for me. And I think our relationship resonates in every conversation that we have together.
I'm so glad you're there, bro, to be honest with you, because I remember when you came to my office back when I had my company, like, years ago, and you were at, where was it again? You were at a recruiting,
So I was at Insperity, which is like
yeah.
implements HR infrastructure
Yep.
for companies between like 5 to 150 employees.
And I think we were using like ADP, Total Source or
Yeah.
something, right? And you guys were, yeah. I remember you came
Yeah,
in, and
sure.
I listened to the pitch and the snap, and we were already there. And then I think I sold the company like
Yeah.
the next year. So it was like not a fit. But I was like, this guy's a fish out of water in this position, man. He needs, and then you go to this, and I'm like, this is fucking perfect for Kevin. Like, this is perfect for you, bro. Your personality, your background, like the whole thing just totally made sense. So why don't you tell me some of the clients that you guys have? Because I know one thing I was like massively impressed with that your agency got was the Mike Tyson thing. Like, that's amazing, bro.
Yeah, for sure. So
Jesus.
and also just to take a step back too, Insperity was a great job for me because it allowed me to dive headfirst into a world that I'm not used to,
Yeah.
and it allowed to develop me as a professional in a lot of different ways that I was deficient in. Yeah, I was great in relationships, but my resume only read NFL teams. All I really knew was doing how to run downfield on a kickoff and bust a wedge wide open. So there's a lot of things I had to do, like agendas, setting meetings, follow ups, email writing, like everything appropriately to redefine me and to just make me a better business person all around. So I'm grateful for Inspired and the things I learned. Plus, I found a job where I got to create even though it wasn't my dream job out the gate, I get to establish a lot of wins through it, build upon my network, and learn a little bit about business. It was like a hands-on MBA every day. I got to learn how businesses run and operate, and it's a network that still helps me in what I do now. So very grateful for that. And then, in Malka Sports is very interesting. We're uniquely positioned, in fact, that we have a content creation agency that we're attached to as well that allows us to amplify in all those four areas I mentioned earlier. So it gives us a lot of different capabilities. So on that side is we have a bunch of podcasts that are all video first that we allow that allow us to do well. And you get to use these as vehicles with brand attachments and to sell against other brands as well. So there's a lot of different opportunities it presents, especially in what we do. So what's really cool is entering a conversation, whether it's a talent, a brand, or a media property, or whatever we're looking or whoever we're talking to. There's a way to kind of create a win and pivot in a certain way to find business and build a relationship, which is awesome. That's what I love about my job and what I get to do on any call that I'm on. And Tyson's hot boxing is an example of that.
Unbelievable. I can't believe you guys got that.
Come into that and produce that now. And what's really cool about the network that we're building around that is we took an internal client whose name is Sebastian Joseph Day. He's D tackle for the LA Rams. He just wrapped his third year. He's becoming a rock star in the NFL. And he lives in LA. And Tyson right now, they're going through guest co-host, just trying to figure out who the next co-host is going to be alongside of him. And the opportunity came along for Sebastian to be this guest co-host on there. So how cool is that? Like we get to take
Sick.
someone part of the network and bring it across another part of the network and create another win. And it's all staying internal. So that's really like how you do something special and
Yeah.
how the whole network talks to each other and we all work hand in hand. And it's a lot of fun.
And then you produced Frankie's podcast, right?
So we help Frankie on the side. We
Oh,
don't
okay.
produce it in general, but
He's just doing it
we
on his own. Okay.
yeah, and he's doing an awesome job with that, man. It's
Yeah.
awesome. The podcast
Yeah.
stuff is great. It's a tremendous vehicle for a lot of people to build upon their brand. Another example of that is what we do with Devin and Jason McCourty. They have a podcast called Double Coverage of the McCourty Twins, and we saw an awesome chance of when Jason signed to New England 3 years ago. We got to take advantage of this moment of those two being on the same field, on the same team together and living locally. So what can we do? Is what we did was we build them a podcast. We build it out from scratch, and it's fun. We give them an outlet for them to talk about whatever they want. And just like when you start talking about future opportunities and exploring that what you're going to do post career. Well, here's a little cool inside look of who these guys could be as commentators one day if they decide to go that route. So just like reps you need on the field to get better, same thing in doing things like this and having these type of conversations. And now, that podcast has been a lot of fun. We grew it tremendously. We integrated sponsors in it throughout the years. This past year, we brought it to network TV with Nesson Network, which is in that Northeast region. So just a lot of fun. We learned a lot along the way, but more importantly, it was a great vehicle for Dev and Jay just to showcase their personalities off the field. And for us, that's what it's all about. It's finding those unique opportunities and just any way we can kind of gain leverage with that platform the NFL presents to these players to create additional wins and just really build upon their brand. It's much more than just taking on clients and doing a contract or doing a bunch of one-off deals with brands. It's how can we grow all this together, and do more recurring things and just make it better and better. And I think that's what's really cool about the network that we're plugged into, but also our capability in general from an agency standpoint that we feel is a big differentiator for us.
You guys do original shows on Showtime. Is that what you were alluding to earlier? You were saying that? Yeah.
Showtime's a client of ours.
Okay.
So we do a lot of
You're
content.
producing like real content here. This is not like just
Oh, yeah,
podcast, right? I mean,
sure.
this is legitimate
Yeah,
stuff. It's going on Showtime, right?
full documentary work, digital content series, all different types of things. And even going back to Sebastian's show, Sebastian, he has a show called Dine and Bash, and that's a mix of food and culture in the LA market. It showcases him and his ability. And again, we don't feel like people are just doing this in this space, taking advantage of this type of opportunity and utilizing that platform. And we're just giving Sebastian a different outlet to showcase who he is outside the field. So that's a lot of fun. We just completed that show this past year. We did 7 episodes where he interviewed local restaurant owners, get to know who they're all about. And it gets to showcase his personality too. He's a great guy, big time personality. And there's a little comedy involved in it as well. So mix of food and culture mixed in with his comedy. And it's been a lot of fun. But again, it's another outlet for the player and also another vehicle to maybe form some brand opportunities for
I
other
see one
brand
here you
partners.
got with Bob Hurley. That's pretty cool. That's amazing. This guy's like a legend,
Yeah,
right?
we
And
did
DeMarcus Cousins. I mean, you got some legitimate content here, man. You guys are doing a great job.
yeah, both were Showtime documentaries. But again, it just shows like the ability that we have and a machine to plug into as an athlete and the type of opportunities that are out there that exist. So, a lot of fun. And again, like I love it too because it gives so much more to my job and my approach and what I can do and where any conversation can go. So that's been a blast.
Kevin, what is your superpower?
I would say sense of urgency. I'm extremely proactive. I always say, reactive versus proactive. And I try to live in the area of proactive every day. To me, I try to stay out in front of every kind of relationship and living in the details of everything I'm doing. And I like to think I'm self-aware in that regard. So I would say, sense of urgency.
What is your kryptonite?
Oh, that's a tough question. Kryptonite.
What's your weakness, bro? Come on.
Frankie said patience, and I kind of feel the same way. Sometimes I'm not as patient. I just want results, and sometimes I'm definitely always willing to work for those results, but sometimes you get frustrated with certain parts of the process and your belief systems, and maybe something didn't fall your way, and you're trying to figure out why not. But a lot of it's just sticking to what we do and how we do it. And sometimes I would say, patience. I would say that's mine as well.
I ask everybody this that comes on the show, who are your top 3 rappers of all time?
I would say, like I like your Meek Mill, J. Cole, Drake. Like I like your modern day
Come on,
type of
man.
rap. But I will say now, like an old timer though, is Eminem. because like it's funny, we ran out to Till I Collapse by Eminem
Okay.
at high school wrestling. So like that
Oh
was like
yeah.
my and but I'll tell you right now, my Spotify like liked music, like you have that playlist that you like and it goes to the playlist. It's the most random playlist you would ever come across. I mean, I got like instrumentals from movies on there. Like to me, like I love listening to music that inspires me and gets me going. So it's funny, my wife thinks I'm nuts because like I can lift to the Rudy soundtrack. Like I
Oh
can bang
God.
to the Rudy soundtrack because like it gets me going sometimes.
Yeah, yeah,
So it all depends what kind of mood I'm in. But yeah, I would say like your modern day rap, like in those guys.
yeah.
And but I grew up an Eminem fan as well.
Let me ask you this. There's going to be some kids probably over the years going to look this up. You're a local legend around here. So, I mean, they're probably going to try to compare themselves, right? Like, do I have what it takes? When you were in high school, what kind of weight were you pushing? Bench, squats, cleans? Like, what were you doing? What were your speeds? Like, what? And then tell me what they were when you were in college and made it to the NFL.
I never really got like a proper 40 time when I was
Probably
younger.
not when we're younger. Yeah.
Because in high school, like at that time, like testing wasn't huge,
Yeah. They're
so
using a clock like that. Yeah.
even was like going to camps was a good thing, but like you didn't have to go to camps when we were younger.
No.
Nowadays, it's like
Yeah.
college is my
You got to do it. Yeah.
that's the way it goes. I was a very strong kid, just because like I did the Olympic lifts very young, and I learned them young, and I learned the technique that behind them. I could power clean. I power clean in high school, 295 pounds, which is like a pretty good power clean, and I could bench about I would say about 315 when I was in
In
high
high school.
school,
That's strong, man.
and
Yeah.
yeah. So and squat was always
I
probably my
wasn't doing 315 in high school. Shit.
but I could back squat about 425
In
when I
high
was in
school.
yeah. And
Wow. That's strong in high school, man.
like I'm very strict in my technique.
Linemen were doing that. That's strong for a linebacker. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So it was, again, like I love lifting
What
weights.
was your 40 when you went to the did you go to the combine? You were undrafted, but did you go to the combine?
So I wasn't a combine
Okay.
invite, so my pro day was very big for me.
Yeah.
That's what I had to do. I had to perform
What was
very
your
well
40
there.
time?
459. So I'm
That's
very
good.
happy with
That's
that.
really
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
I benched 225 23 times.
That's not so good.
Well, it's not bad. I mean, it
No,
was
man, that's not very good.
it was I did it 225 23 times.
I did it over
That's
30 times when I was in college. Then you went to the NFL. I don't think you trained for it the right way. That's probably why.
But
You
yeah,
probably just didn't train for the endurance of it, right?
well, I mean, yeah, I mean, no, 225. Well, if you honestly, if you benchmark it, the rest of the guys, I want to say like the leading linebacker that year did it like 30 times. So
Yeah, I think
it's
I got
really,
33 or 4 or something like that when I was a senior in college. But I mean, I think it was
sure
the
you
way I trained for it.
the thing is like the lockout is very clean. You have to
Oh,
lock
yeah,
it up.
yeah, yeah. No, totally. Yeah.
Sometimes these
Absolutely.
people they
No,
get
I
these like
wasn't doing this shit, bro.
yeah, yeah.
No, they were locked out. Yeah, they were totally locked out. I was surprised though, because the year that I did it, I think most of the guys in the NFL combine were doing it in the 20s. And I was like, I don't understand that, And everybody else on my team was like 17, 18 was the highs. Nobody was even getting in the 20s. It was crazy. It's a technique though. That's a technique. Pitch to shoulder blades, there's a whole thing to it. You know what I mean? What about your vertical? What was your vertical? Do you remember?
God, it was solid. I want to say it was like in the 30s, 34, maybe
Okay.
even 36. It was around there.
It's
I was
probably
very
high 30s. Yeah.
brought it at 10, which was really solid for me. Um, yeah, so I mean, my numbers is what got me a legit chance.
A look. Yep.
It confirmed like who I was athletically.
Mhm.
Like I had a lot of great tape at Rutgers. I had over 200 tackles there, but in my tenure there, but it confirmed again, just kind of like matching with the player on the field, and that's to me all the combine or pro days really do.
Do you have a highlight reel from college? Do you have that?
You know what? Like I was never that guy who like put together tape of myself. Or I
The
never.
coaches probably did it for you, right? Just
Nowadays, no,
did you?
honestly,
For
the
real?
scouts. Well, the scouts just pull it on their own. They
Okay.
visit school and they go watch film like in your facility.
Oh, okay.
And we have people that kind of tee up the scouts to do that appropriately. But yeah, we never. I never like put together like a highlight tape of
Yeah.
myself or anything like that.
I'm just thinking I want to put some B-roll into this with you while you're talking about this over top. It's probably on YouTube. There's got to be some shit for you on YouTube, I imagine.
Yeah,
At least
maybe.
at least NFL. There's got to be NFL footage, right?
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah, that's cool. I got to look that up. All right. What was your favorite book or the one book that's kind of inspired you when you were growing up or as you got older?
I would say that Sweetness book made an impact on me. I read it in high school, and like that was like an incredible book to me, and got me going. I like rock and roll biographies. Like I read Slash's autobiography, and that was a great one, and everything that he's been through in his life and has overcome. But yeah, I would say a book that really inspired me was that Walter Payton book.
Cool, cool, cool. If you had to measure your pride, your ego, and your humility, I spit my words out. How would you put them as a percentage? Like a third, a third, a third, or 50% ego, more pride? Like what if you balance it out? Because it's like a challenge, right, for people, like to try to balance it out. You got to have an ego, you got to have pride, but if you have too much of an ego, too much pride, it's probably going to hurt you, right? How do you balance that out? You ever think about that, or?
I like to think I'm pretty well balanced, but maybe it would be sometimes ego in the sense that like I just believe in like what we do as a company or who I am as a person and my approach. Sometimes maybe that would, you know, overtake a little bit, and I wouldn't call that, I wouldn't not necessarily view that as a bad thing. I try not to let ego get involved in when it comes to certain particular relationships in that regard. But it's ego as far as approach and what we can do and how we can do it from a business standpoint. And me personally in my own life, I would say you kind of had that growing up, in order to, especially to go to the NFL or play football in college. Like those are things I needed.
For sure. Yeah. What motivates you now? Like what gets you up in the morning? Like we talked about it before. We're obviously very motivated people, but what is it? What's the underlying thing that is driving your well-being, everything, just everything about you today? Like what gets you going, man?
Just peace of mind. I would say, doing everything I can to be the very best I can be. And that's to me, that's peace of mind. That's something we used to say at Rutgers all the time, and Shannon would instill that with us in the definition of success. I would definitely say that. Like in anything I'm doing, just to be great in, whether it's my job or any kind of relationship, or especially in family and in my friendships, and just to deliver in all those relationships. That's really what inspires me, and to me, if that's what's inspiring me, that's going to keep me going for the rest of my life.
I want to talk about Bitcoin for a minute. What do you know about Bitcoin? Are you familiar with Bitcoin? I mean, today's the IP. Today we're recording on the day that Coinbase went public. It's one of the largest exchanges, obviously, for cryptocurrencies. What do you know about Bitcoin? Do you own Bitcoin, by the way?
Not Bitcoin. We're in crypto a little bit, but I'm
You
like,
gotta buy
but
some
like,
Bitcoin, bro.
I know. Honestly, let's just say I'm not on your level, man. I definitely gotta sit down with you, and have our own conversations, and
Happy,
even so,
happy
like,
to do it. Yeah,
what some of our clients doing is they're looking to regard because, like, I know you know that space inside and out, and you're
yeah.
way ahead of the game, which I have a lot of respect for. Would totally like to pick your brain on it.
Have your clients asked you guys about NFTs? Are the athletes? Are they talking about that with you guys?
It's starting to come up more and more in
Yeah.
conversation, and definitely looking to explore that world. It's crazy just how much in general that landscape is changing from a day to day. And you got to stay up on it. But yeah, it's definitely coming up more and more in conversation.
Let me ask you this, because you've been around a lot of people that are wealthy because you've been in the NFL. Obviously, a lot of these guys make good money, right? Even minimum wage is making good money in the NFL. By the way, we have another mutual friend, Darion Barnes, right? So Darion, he played for 8 teams in 7 years. I think I'm getting that right. And he bounced around. He was like a minimum wage player, which you make good money. But I remember him telling me when he went to the NFL, they have like the rookies come in, or sorry, the rookies are there and they bring in the veterans to talk to you guys. Like you're about to come into some money. Some of you are making millions of dollars. Some of you guys aren't getting any signing bonuses. You're a minimum wage player. Like you said, I'm just week to week to see if I get the 55-man roster, et cetera, right? But you were probably smart about your money. Darian was definitely smart about it, and then became a high school football coach when he was done with his career. When you talk to these guys, like, tell me like the mindset around money, like with everybody in the NFL. Can you maybe like, what is their mindset? How are their spending habits? Some are frugal, some are not. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that whole experience?
For sure.
Because you
And what
basically go from poor to like rich overnight, some of these guys, right? It's crazy.
Absolutely. And my thing personally, I was always taught the value of the dollar growing up. So a lot of it, starts in just how, your type of atmosphere and how you were raised and, things that you're exposed to. So, but that's me personally, and that's based on my own personal experiences. So, but what you see in the NFL is a variety of that. You see how people spend but a big part of that is just education. So that's what we believe in now, especially on the agency side when we have these conversations with guys who are getting ready to go from college to the NFL. It's just educate them, put them in a position to where they're empowered and they can make their own financial decisions, and also have people help them along the way. And we're big believers in that. Just like we believe as an agency to educate others as far as what agencies should be doing and providing for you. We believe that just as heavily in the the financial space. So a lot of it is just guys want to get educated. A lot of people that I work with personally in our agency, they're all like that. They're all hands on approach, hands on deck approach, and they want to get educated in that space and learn as much as they possibly can, just to make sure you avoid any kind of pitfall and to take advantage of the unique amount of money that you make in the NFL.
Yeah, I was going to ask you too, because like, there's got to be a lot of these sharky, wacky guys that are coming in trying to get their money, right? And you as an agent, you're trying to protect them from this crap, right? There's all these like sharks that are just trying to get oh, you should invest in this, you should do that. I would imagine there's a lot of that coming around professional athletes.
Absolutely, and that's a role that I help play. I help insulate those guys from major just some tough bad things that could potentially happen in that space, and those guys get ready to take advantage of people in the NFL who come into a lump sum of money. But it's a lot of that. Like, I won't put anybody in front of any of my guys until I vet them out. I don't tell them who to go with, but I put them in front of only just high character people who we vetted out in a million different ways, and how they advise, how they educate. There's a lot of things that come into play in how we evaluate all these financial advisors before we even put them in that position to talk to our guys.
Yeah, I would imagine, like, do they have investment bankers and stuff like a Goldman Sachs of the world? They're trying to get them. I mean, they're reputable at least, but I mean, even them, I would say get the hell out of here. But it might be better than them managing it themselves, possibly. I don't know.
Exactly. There's all different types of people. You have like your boutique financial advisors, and yeah, you have your like what you just mentioned,
Yeah, the
bigger
Goldmans. Yeah,
bigger advisors as well. And there's a variety of people that work in those spaces too.
sure.
And a lot of it just comes through, through the network and other people trusting other people. You know how it is, Jay, like in a business, like you have a unique network that all kind of leans and trusts one another because
Mhm.
you all just build those relationships. It's the same way in football and going through that financial space.
Yeah, totally. Let me ask you a question. This is a personal question. When you got into the NFL, did you make a big purchase? Did you ever like buy a nice car or anything like that when you first got there?
So I'm going to be honest. The only two major purchases I ever made when I was in the NFL were I bought a car, I bought a Range Rover Sport, right, and then I bought my wife's engagement ring. That was
Okay,
like,
that's a good investment.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like that's an investment that's going to last us the rest of our life, and
Yeah.
we're really happy with that. And the car lasted me a long time too. So it was, that's about it. The rest was safe.
I tell people all the time, it's like, I'm so glad I met my wife when I really didn't have anything because I don't have to ever question that she's in it for the money. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I bet you feel the same way. You were high school sweethearts, right? That's awesome.
And exactly. Yeah, we've just been through
Yeah.
so much together. So we have an amazing journey.
Hey, listen, Kevin, I'm going to let you go. This was a great time having you on the show. I really enjoyed it. I'm fine. We were talking about doing this for weeks, right? So we finally got here. I don't know when we're going to publish this one, but today was the 14th, I think, right? Yeah. April 14th was the day that Coinbase went public. But I think you're either going to get published next week or the week after. I'm not so sure, but I really appreciate you coming on here, man. I really, really do.
Yeah, Jay, thanks, man. What a tremendous opportunity. And always love talking shop with you. And I really love what you're doing. This podcast is awesome. And it's really educating a lot of people, which is what it's all about. So really appreciate you and happy to be on here. And honestly, thanks so much for setting the bar for local guys like myself, man. Much respect to all your success as well.
Dude, you set the bar. And I've said this to you before. You always say that to me. But the truth is, there's so many kids in Ocean County that know who Kevin Malast is because they want to go in the NFL. You are their legend. You are their docent, brother. So thanks for
I
coming on the
appreciate
show.
it. Thank you so much. Thanks, Jay. Appreciate you, man.